Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Hey there.
Today we're not just unpacking a standard biography today.
No, definitely not.
We are essentially looking at a glitch in the matrix of political history.
That's a great way to put it.
Because we have this stack of documents here that, frankly, just shouldn't belong to the same person.
Right. The variety is staggering.
Yeah. I mean, we have naval service records from the absolute height of the First World War.
Mm-hmm.
We have dusty minutes from the Auckland City Council in the 1960s. And then we have these personal letters that read less like a memoir and more like a psychological thriller.
They really do.
So we are unpacking the life of a man named George Frederick Harry Forsyth.
It is a life that really just defies categorization. Like, if you pitched this as a movie script, the producers would tell you to pick a genre.
Right. Is this a war movie or a political drama?
Exactly. Because it feels like three different movies stitched together. You have the war movie, the working class hero drama, and then this incredibly tense political tragedy at the end.
Yeah. And the reason we are doing this, the mission for this deep dive, isn't just to recite dates.
No.
Or list the battles he fought in, though, those are incredibly impressive.
Very impressive.
But we want to understand a very specific, very painful human dilemma.
The tension.
The tension, yes. Yeah. Between loyalty to a team, whether that's a political party, a trade union, or the Royal Navy, and loyalty to your own rigid personal code of conduct.
Because Forsyth is the ultimate test case for that, isn't he?
He is. He's what happens when you completely refuse to compromise, even when that refusal threatens to destroy literally everything you have spent a lifetime building.
That is the key theme we need to keep coming back to for you listening today. This is a man who fits that Forrest Gump archetype.
Right, popping up everywhere.
Yeah, he keeps popping up in the middle of these massive historical events. But he doesn't have that naive, go-with-the-flow attitude that we associate with Gump.
Definitely not.
Forsyth is sharp, he's difficult, he's gritty, and he creates friction wherever he goes.
He's the Forrest Gump who would argue with the bus driver about the route.
Yes.
And then file a formal complaint about the suspension system on the bus.
That is a perfect description, and he would probably organize all the passengers into a union before they even got off.
So true. So let's look at the sources we have. We have the military archives, which are intense.
Yeah.
We have the Union records, which span nearly half a century. And we have the political fallout reports from the New Zealand Labour Party. And just as a quick reminder for you listening, when we dive into the politics, left-wing, right-wing, AOP, we aren't taking sides here.
Right. We're just reporting what the sources say.
Exactly. We're just looking at the historical record impartially. But looking at all this paper, where do we even start with a resume like this?
You have to start with the noise.
The noise.
Yeah, you have to start with the sheer industrial violence of his youth. Because everything George Forsyth becomes later, the rigid disciplinarian, the stubborn city councilor, the man who yells at the mayor, it's all forged in the North Sea between 1915 and 1918.
Okay, let's set the scene. He was born in England in 1898.
Right. So when the First World War breaks out, he is just a kid.
Barely a teenager.
And he joins the Royal Navy. And I want to pause on the Royal Navy part because it's vital for you to understand the culture he's entering.
It's strict.
Beyond strict. This isn't a democratic organization where you vote on where the ship goes.
Oh, it's the ultimate hierarchy. It is the absolute definition of do what you are told.
It is obey orders instantly, without question. It is a machine. And Forsyth, remarkably, thrives in it.
He really does.
His service record is baffling for someone so young. He isn't peeling potatoes in some quiet port down in Cornwall.
No, he's in the thick of it.
He is at Doggerbank. He is at Heligoland. He is at the Zeebrugge raid.
And the big one.
The biggest one?
The Battle of Jutland.
Jutland, the largest naval battle of the First World War, the only time the full might of the British and German dreadnought fleets actually smashed into each other. We are talking about 250 massive ships.
I was reading the accounts of Jutland to prep for this deep dive, and the scale is just hard to comprehend.
It's apocalyptic.
It really is. It's not just ships shooting at each other. It's the sky turning completely black from coal smoke. Ships exploding and vanishing in seconds. Thousands of men dying in minutes.
And Forsyth is a teenager watching this happen.
Insane.
He is seeing what happens when discipline holds, and he's seeing the catastrophic cost of error. When you survive Jutland, when you watch a battle cruiser like the Queen Mary explode because of a magazine detonation...
Just vaporized.
Exactly. It wires your brain differently. It instills a fatalism, sure, but also a terrifying clarity.
Yeah.
Stop caring about feelings or popularity.
You just care about the rules.
Right. You care about, is the ship watertight? Is the gun loaded? Are we following procedure?
Because if you don't follow procedure, you die. Or your friends die.
Exactly. So fast forward 40 years to a city council meeting about a bus terminal.
Right.
Everyone else is thinking about polling numbers or political favors. Forsyth is thinking, this is the procedure, this is the right way, why are you arguing with me?
He brings that battleship mentality into a democratic debating chamber.
Which is a complete recipe for disaster.
It really is.
Yeah.
But before we get to the politics, there is this bizarre Hollywood moment in his service record.
Oh, this is fascinating.
It's almost too perfect. He's serving on a destroyer, the HMS Sportive.
That's right. It's 1918, towards the end of the war. He's off the coast of Syria and Palestine.
And he meets Colonel T.E. Lawrence.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes.
The sources completely confirm it. Forsyth, this young petty officer, a rank that is entirely about enforcing rules, by the way, bumps into Lawrence.
The contrast is just wild.
Now think about the contrast here for a second. Lawrence is the ultimate irregular. He's wearing robes, he's ignoring orders from headquarters in Cairo, he's waging a guerrilla war out in the desert.
He is the embodiment of making it up as you go along.
And Forsyth is the embodiment of the rule book.
Exactly. Forsyth cited this as one of his most vivid memories. We don't have a transcript of the conversation, sadly.
I wish we did.
Right. But you have to wonder if Forsyth looked at Lawrence and thought, impressive results, but look at the state of your uniform.
That's not how we do things in the Navy, Colonel. Where's your shaving kit?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is a foreshadowing moment.
Very much so.
Because later in life, Forsyth's greatest enemy, his absolute nemesis in politics, is a man who is very much like Lawrence.
Oh, completely. Charismatic, irregular, breaks all the rules.
And Forsyth absolutely hates him.
It's like he spent his whole life trying to stop the Lawrences of the world from messing up his perfect system.
That's a brilliant way to put it.
Yeah.
He valued the system over the star power. So he stays in the Navy until 1930. But he eventually moves to New Zealand in 1923 as a seamanship instructor.
So his first real job in his new country is literally teaching people how to follow naval rules.
Perfect fit. And then World War II hits.
And the uniform comes right back out.
Of course it does.
He commands the Auckland Home Guard. He is a man who runs toward responsibility. He wants to be the one in charge of the defense.
So by the time the war is over and he's settling into civilian life properly, his character is set in stone.
Cemented. He is a commander. He is a man of discipline.
But here is the pivot. He doesn't stay in the military. He becomes a Union man.
Which sounds contradictory at first.
It does. And this wasn't just a brief stint. We are talking about a 44-year career. But looking at the specific union he led, it's not the one you'd expect for a guy who fought at Jutland.
No, not at all. When we think of New Zealand labor history, or really labor history anywhere, we think of the muscle unions.
The big guys.
The wharfies, the dock workers, the miners, the rail workers, the guys who can shut down the entire economy just by folding their arms.
The guys who get into fistfights with the police. The guys who block the ports.
Right. Forsyth didn't lead those guys.
Who did he lead?
He was the president of the Auckland Caretakers, Cleaners, Lift Attendants, and Watchmen's Union.
Lift attendants and watchmen. Talk about the invisible workforce.
It is the absolute definition of invisible. These are the people who unlock the doors at 5 in the morning. They polish the floors while everyone else is sleeping.
They sit in the lobby watching a security monitor.
Exactly. And they have almost zero economic leverage. If the cleaners go on strike, the office is dirty the next day, sure, but the business keeps running.
It's not like a dock strike where the exports physically stop and millions are lost.
Exactly. So how do you lead a union like that? You can't just bully the employers.
You have to be smarter.
You have to be incredibly organized. You have to use the arbitration courts, the legal system, the specific clauses in the employment contracts.
This plays perfectly to Forsyth's strengths.
Perfectly. He was a bureaucratic warrior. He fought for these people, the little guys, the people with no voice, for 4 decades.
He retired as president at age 74, right?
Yes, and he was made a life member.
And he wasn't just local either. He took this role to the national stage.
He did. He became the national president. He sat on the Auckland Trades Council for years. He even represented New Zealand at 2 conferences of the International Labor Organization, the ILO.
That is a huge jump. From representing lift attendants in Auckland to sitting at the ILO table on the international stage.
It shows his capacity to scale up. But it also reinforces his core identity. He saw himself as a champion of the working class.
Specifically, the little guy within the working class.
Yes. And this is crucial for understanding what happens later in the political arena. He built an identity as a working class hero.
He wasn't some wealthy lawyer who joined the Labor Party for clout.
No, he was in the trenches. Literally in World War I, and metaphorically with the cleaners and caretakers.
So when he enters politics, he feels like he owns the moral high ground. He feels he's earned it through blood and sweat.
In his eyes, absolutely. He enters the political arena properly in 1953 when he's elected to the Auckland City Council.
And he's reelected in 1956.
Right, so everything seems to be going to plan. He's a loyal labor man, sitting on the council, doing the hard work.
But then, in 1958, we get the first crack in the hull. The first breakup, if you will.
This is a very telling incident. It's 1958, and Forsyth straight up resigns from the Labor Party.
And this is where you expect some massive scandal. What was it? Corruption, embezzlement, some torrid affair.
A Western bus terminal.
A bus terminal.
Literally a bus terminal.
They're joking.
No. Specifically, it was a disagreement with the Auckland Labor Representation Committee regarding the council's plan for a Western bus terminal.
Okay, break that down for us.
Forsyth supported the council's plan. He looked at the logistics and agreed with it. The Labor Party machine, however, did not. They censured him for defying party policy.
But most politicians would just swallow their pride, vote with the party, and move on.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just a bus terminal.
But Forsyth quits the party over it.
Yeah, he just walks away.
He quits, and this analyzes perfectly back to that naval background we were just talking about.
The captain's word is law.
On a ship, if the captain, or in this case, his own judgment as a counselor, says this is the right course, you follow it.
He valued his own assessment of the city's needs over the abstract discipline of the party machine.
Exactly. He felt that as an elected official, his duty was to the city first on that specific logistical issue.
So he's out of labor, but he doesn't stop. In 1959, he runs as a civic reform candidate.
Which was a ticket combining labor people and United Independents. And here's the kicker. He wins.
That's the key takeaway.
It is. He proved to himself and to the city that he could win without the official party machine backing him.
That is a dangerous lesson for a politician to learn if you want them to remain loyal later on.
Very dangerous. It validated his belief that he was the brand, not the party.
Right, he thinks they voted for Forsyth, not for the Labor logo.
Exactly.
So eventually fences do get mended. By 1962, he's back in the labor fold.
But the peace doesn't last long.
Because a new character enters the story. The nemesis.
Dove-Myer Robinson.
Even the name sounds like a character from a novel.
Robinson was a force of nature. He was the sitting mayor of Auckland. He was charismatic, he was eccentric, and he was a decided individualist.
And we've firmly established that Forsyth, the Navy man, the Union president, is all about the team, the structure, the collective.
Exactly. You have a massive personality clash here. Robinson was incredibly popular, but he wasn't a party man in the way Forsyth understood it.
So what's the context for their first real clash?
The 1962 election. Forsyth rejoins Labor. He runs for council with Alex Draver. But there is this widening rift between the Labor Party apparatus, specifically Forsyth, and Mayor Robinson.
And this is where Forsyth gets pretty petty, or principled, depending on how you look at it. Because in 1962, instead of backing Robinson, who, let's be clear, had a lot of support from left-leaning voters, Forsyth campaigns for Edgar Faber,
who was the president of the Chamber of Commerce.
So the lifelong trade unionist, the leader of the cleaners and caretakers, is actively campaigning for the Chamber of Commerce guy, just despite the incumbent mayor.
It looks like pure spite. But Forsyth would argue it was rigorous adherence to principle.
How does that logic work?
His argument was this: the working class deserves a labor option, a real official labor option on the ballot.
Okay.
Robinson actually had policies that labor liked. He wanted better public transport, he wanted council housing, he wanted inner-city redevelopment.
So on paper, they aligned.
Yes, but he wasn't labor. To Forsyth, Robinson was getting a free ride.
He was harvesting labor votes without submitting to labor discipline.
Exactly. It's the difference between, I like your ideas and I need you to wear the jersey.
Forsyth needed everyone to wear the jersey.
Precisely. Forsyth believed that by letting Robinson run unopposed by labor, the party was weakening itself. They were outsourcing their job to an independent.
He felt that if you are a labor voter, you should have a box to tick that says labor for every single position, including mayor.
That was his core belief.
This brings us to the 1965 mayoral campaign. Forsyth decides he's completely done watching from the sidelines. He wants a full labor ticket.
Right. In March 1965, he proposes this motion to the party. Initially, the leadership defeats it. They know Robinson is popular. They don't want to rock the boat and lose.
But the matter gets referred to the local branches.
And here's the surprise. The local branches actually agree with Forsyth.
The rank and file want a candidate.
They do. They believed that having a mayoral candidate at the top of the ticket would create a coattail effect.
Evening.
Meaning, even if the mayoral candidate didn't win, the excitement of having a real labor choice would bring out more voters who would then vote for labor councilors down the ballot.
Right. So Forsyth gets his wish. He becomes the mayoral candidate.
And he does not hold back. I mean, the rhetoric in this campaign was blistering. He attacked Robinson personally.
He did. We have the quotes here. He was quoted saying, "Civic leaders are so busy creating an image for themselves, they're forgetting the people they should be serving."
That is a direct shot at Robinson's celebrity style.
And my favorite quote, he described Robinson as someone who had set himself up as a god.
Strong words. It highlights that clash we mentioned earlier, the celebrity mayor versus the service-oriented councilor.
Forsyth saw himself as a public servant doing the unglamorous work. He saw Robinson as a public performer.
But the voters didn't quite see it that way.
No. The result was, frankly, a total disaster for labor.
Forsyth finished a distant third. He got 3,373 votes.
That's nothing.
But the real damage was the spoiler effect.
Because by running, he split the left-leaning vote.
Exactly. He pulled just enough votes away from Robinson to allow the citizens and ratepayers candidate, Roy McIlroy, to win.
The conservative candidate wins.
Yes. McIlroy won by about 1,100 votes. If Forsyth hadn't run, or if those 3,000 labor votes had gone to Robinson, Robinson likely would have coasted to victory.
And what about that coattail effect? Did he at least bring in a bunch of new labor councilors?
Zero. None. The predicted surge of labor councilors completely failed to materialize.
Wow.
Forsyth got reelected to the council and his running mate Drever got in, but that was it. The strategy was a total failure.
You would think, looking at that math, looking at the absolute wreckage of the 1965 election, Forsyth would say, okay, lesson learned. We can't split the vote.
You would think that, but you would be wrong. This sets the stage for what we call the unthinkable act of 1968.
The stakes are even higher now. McIlroy is the mayor. Robinson wants his job back. Labor is stuck right in the middle.
So Forsyth tries one last power play. He invites Robinson to a meeting.
Face to face.
Face to face, and he issues an ultimatum. Join the Labor Party. Subscribe to our principles and policies. If you do that, I will support you for mayor.
Join the team, wear the jersey, and you have the union man's blessing.
But Robinson, predictably, declines. He values his independence just as much as Forsyth values the party structure.
Unstoppable force meets immovable objects.
Exactly. So Forsyth withdraws his support.
But the Labor Party leadership, the strategists who are actually looking at the numbers, they realize they cannot win a three-way race again.
They know it's suicide.
And they know that most labor voters actually prefer Robinson.
Why wouldn't they?
Because Robinson wants rapid rail. He wants cheaper transit. That actually helps working-class people. McIlroy, the citizens and ratepayers guy, didn't really have policies for the working class.
This is the crux of the tragedy. On a policy level, Robinson was clearly the better choice for the people Forsyth claimed to represent.
Rapid rail would have been a game changer for the cleaners and watchmen living out in the suburbs.
It would have. But Forsyth couldn't get past the independence label. He just fundamentally disagreed with the party's pragmatic decision to sit out the mayoral race and let Robinson run against McIlroy.
So what does he do? He goes rogue.
He fails to get the labor nomination because the party wisely decides not to run a candidate. So Forsyth resigns from the Labor Party, again.
Second time.
The second time. And he runs for mayor anyway as a labor independent.
That label is incredible. Labor independent. It's a complete oxymoron.
It's his way of saying, I am the only true labor person here, even if the Labor Party disagrees with me.
He views himself as the sole guardian of true principles.
He really believed the party had lost its way by compromising with Robinson.
And the public reaction to this was ugly.
It got very dark. This wasn't just a polite disagreement in the council chambers anymore. The campaign turned into what Forsyth himself called Chicago-style opposition.
Chicago-style. That conjures up images of gangsters and strong-arming.
In the context of 1960s Auckland, it meant real intimidation. Forsyth started receiving anonymous threatening phone calls.
Threatening his life.
At least half a dozen of them telling him to back down. People refused to give their names, but made it abundantly clear he should drop out.
That's intense.
Even worse, his family was verbally abused while riding on public buses.
That is horrifying. His family getting yelled at on the bus just for being related to him.
It just shows how heated local politics had become. People were furious that he was going to spoil the election again and hand it to the Conservatives.
How did Forsyth react to the threats?
He lamented it. He said he wasn't worried about the callers. Personally, remember, this is a Jutland veteran, a phone call won't scare him, but he thought it was a pretty poor state of affairs that a man couldn't offer himself for public office without this kind of abuse.
And what was the result of the election?
Crushing. His vote count was halved from 1965.
Halved. So people really abandoned him.
Completely. He was humiliated at the polls. Robinson, despite Forsyth's interference, actually managed to win the mayoralty back this time. He defeated McElroy.
But Forsyth,
Forsyth lost his seat on the city council. He was entirely out.
that is a tragic fall.
He stood on principle or stubbornness, and he lost everything. His seat, his party, his influence.
There is a bitter irony here, too.
What's that?
Forsyth and McElroy, the opponent, the right-wing Citizens and Ratepayers candidate, were actually friends.
Really?
They liked each other. They viewed each other as team players. Forsyth actually respected McElroy more than he respected Robinson, simply because McElroy followed the rules of his own party.
He preferred an organized opponent to a chaotic ally. Exactly. He understood McElroy. He didn't understand Robinson.
That is fascinating psychology.
Yeah.
He'd rather lose to a proper enemy than win with a rule breaker.
It tells you everything about his worldview.
Now, before we write him off as just this grumpy, obstinate spoiler, we need to look at the other side of the ledger.
We do.
Because Section 7 of our deep dive reminds us that his principles weren't just about party rules or personal vendettas. He took some brave, genuinely unpopular stances on real moral issues.
This is crucial to understanding the whole man. He wasn't just a bureaucratic infighter. He had a deep moral compass.
Like the housing issue in 1967.
Right. He was a member of the Auckland State Housing Allocation Committee.
That's a very powerful position for a local politician.
It is. You decide who gets a roof over their head, and he resigned from that committee in protest.
Over what?
Because of the Holyoke government's policy regarding the housing of Pacific Islanders.
He felt the policy was discriminatory.
Yes. He felt the government was actively failing to provide equitable housing for Pacific Island immigrants coming into Auckland.
Resigning over that in 1967 was a significant stance on racial and social equity.
It wasn't a popular cause for a white politician at the time. It shows he really did care about the marginalized, the people the system was actively ignoring.
Just like his cleaners and lift attendants.
Exactly the same principle.
And then there's the Vietnam War.
This one always amazes me. It connects right back to his youth. In 1968, the absolute height of the conflict, Forsyth proposed visiting Hanoi personally.
He wanted to go to North Vietnam.
He wanted to fly there and negotiate an end to the Vietnam War.
That sounds almost delusional. A city councilor from Auckland solving the Vietnam War.
It does sound crazy.
But also incredibly poignant.
It is poignant. You have to remember, this is a veteran of Jutland. He knows what industrial slaughter looks like firsthand.
He's seen the water turn red.
Right. He's not a young hippie protester holding a sign. He's an old sailor who has seen the absolute worst of humanity. He genuinely believed that perhaps one veteran talking to the leadership could cut through the politics and make a difference.
It shows a naive but really noble desire for peace.
And we also see his leadership in disaster relief closer to home.
The Kaitawa sinking.
Yes, when the MV Kaitawa sank in 1966, it was a terrible tragedy off Cape Ringo where all hands were lost.
29 men died, I think.
Right. And Forsyth immediately stepped up and chaired the relief fund.
That brings it all back to the sea for him.
He never forgot the sailors. When that ship went down, he was the one making sure the widows and the families were looked after financially.
So you have this incredibly complex picture. A man who could be infuriatingly stubborn about a bus terminal or a mayoral ticket, but who would also fiercely fight for Pacific Islander housing and the widows of drowned sailors.
He was entirely consistent in his own mind.
So after the 1968 defeat, he's out of the council. But he's not dead yet politically. He stays active on various boards.
He kept serving. He was on the Regional Authority, the Metropolitan Drainage Board, the Electric Power Board.
And the Fire Board?
Yes, he was chairman of the staff committee on the Fire Board. Again, always looking after the workers, the staff.
But we have one final plot twist. The year is 1974. Forsyth is 75 years old.
And he decides to make one last comeback.
And this is the twist that just makes your head skin when you read the archives. He declares his intention to run for council again, but not as Labour,
No.
not as an independent.
He announces he is going to run as a candidate for citizens and ratepayers.
The opposition, the Conservative ticket, the party of his old rival McElroy, the party he had literally spent his entire adult life fighting against as a trade unionist.
It's stunning.
How do we even explain that? Is that the ultimate betrayal of everything he stood for? Or is it the final evolution of his anti-Robinson crusade?
I think it's the latter. I really do. By 1974, his hatred of the independent, chaotic style of politics was so deep and his friendship with men like McElroy was so real that he felt more at home with the orderly opposition than with the chaotic left.
He valued the team player aspect more than the actual ideology.
Exactly. He would rather be on a team that followed the rules, even if it was the wrong team ideologically, than support a disorganized mess that happened to agree with him.
Decently and in order. That was the phrase used in one of the history books about Auckland local government. Forsyth wanted order above all else.
He did. Sadly, we never got to see how the voters would have reacted to that final switch.
Because he passed away before the election.
He died in August 1974. He was buried at Waikumete Cemetery. A very quiet end to a very loud, turbulent life.
His papers are now sitting at the Auckland War Memorial Museum. If you listening ever go there, you can see the paper trail of a man who fought at Jutland, met Lawrence of Arabia, cleaned up the unions, and tore his own political party apart twice.
All in the name of principle.
It's a legacy of absolute contradictions. He was a hero to the lift attendants and the Watchmen. He gave them a voice when nobody else would.
But he was a massive spoiler for the broader progressive movement in Auckland.
He likely delayed the implementation of things like rapid transit by years because of his personal feud with Robinson.
He definitely did.
It really brings us back to that question we started with at the top of the dive. When you look at George Forsyth, you see a man who completely refused to compromise.
And we usually praise that.
We do. In a movie, we cheer for that guy. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That's right.
Yeah.
We love the guy who won't back down to the machine.
We do. But in reality, in the messy, practical ecosystem of a running city, that refusal to compromise can have terrible costs. It can mean the good gets defeated because you were holding out for the perfect.
Or holding out for the rule following.
Exactly. Forsyth believed he was the sole guardian of the temple. But by barring the doors to anyone who didn't know the secret handshake like Robinson, he ended up locking himself out too.
So, here's the thought we want to leave you with today. Imagine you were standing in that voting booth in 1965 or 1968. You have two choices in front of you.
Tough choice.
Very. You have the stubborn principles candidate, the man who has fought for the little guy his whole life, but who is currently wrecking his own party's chances out of spite or a rigid adherence to the rules. Or you have the pragmatic celebrity, the guy who might be a bit of an egoist, might not follow the party line, might think he's a god, but actually have the policies that will tangibly help people tomorrow.
Who gets your vote?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The man of principle who loses, or the man of ego who gets things done.
It's a question that doesn't just apply to 1960s Auckland. It's one we face in almost every single election today.
Absolutely. George Forsyth might be gone, but the Forsyth dilemma is alive and well.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.